Hey everyone, we're back with another week of Find Your Film. This is for the week ending January 14th, 2022. Eric Holmes has had a full day of work. He's called himself Homestel Poseidon. This is based on a Poseidon type of movie that we're going to be covering. How are you doing, Eric? How's that mic going?
Pretty good. I think the mic's doing good. You tell me.
I was nagging Eric Holmes listeners within the last couple of weeks about how he was coming under on the audio, and that now he blows me away with some really good audio. Brian Eno audio. How's his audio, Bruce? What do you think?
It's sexy and deep and mellifluous.
Mellifluous. Don't use fancy words to me and Eric. We don't understand what you're saying.
I couldn't even say it, so.
Greg, Bruce, and Eric on Light 101.9. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Okay, yes. You know what? I'm gonna
that
second
sounds silky smooth.
Sounds of Eric Holmes. Very, very silky smooth. Eric Holmes. Very, very good, sir. We have Bruce, the tragedy of Perky. Bruce, you've actually put in not just an honest day's work, you've kind of double dutied on the work. Well, actually, I was considering one of the movies that we're going to be reviewing this week. I should have said double duty instead of double duty. But Bruce, where did you just come from? Can you tell our listeners?
I was in a panel interview with the director of Belle, which we're going to talk about in this episode. So I got to ask one question, but it was still a lot of fun to listen to the director talk about that movie.
Was your question a brilliant one? What question did you ask?
It was so not brilliant, but that's okay. I'll live with it.
You didn't ask him what his favorite color was, did you?
No. I just asked him about all the movies he likes and not his movie. I didn't even mention his movie. No. So,
Great question, Bruce. We have a whole bunch of movies this week to cover. We have Belle, Italian Studies. Oh my gosh, I think rumor has it that Bruce Perky really loved Italian Studies, that he's actually going to Italy with that movie in tow to watch it on the flight over. Italian Studies will be your in-flight movie. You're going to watch it 8 to 10 times, and then land in Rome where you're going to learn the language. That's how much Italian Studies moved you, correct, Bruce Perky?
It's mucho bella. I don't know if that's Italian. I'm not sure.
I don't
Mamma
know
mia.
what kind of. Oh, very, very good. We have that. We have Hotel Poseidon per Eric's moniker this week of Homestel Poseidon, and of course, last but definitely not least, Bruce and Eric saw the new. Is it Ethan Coen or Joel Coen who directed The Tragedy of Macbeth? Do you know which Coen it is? Eric Holmes.
I believe it is Joel Coen.
Joel Coen, the director of The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Oh, I'm sorry. Joel Cowen.
Joel Cowen. Very, very good. Currently streaming on Apple TV. They're going to chime in on whether this movie... Bruce, is Macbeth, is it based on something good, Shakespeare, right? Is that the dude who wrote it? What do you think?
I think so. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not a little bit over my... Eric, is it Shakespeare, Macbeth? Ring any bells, this movie? Do you understand the language?
Shakespeare. I've heard of that... I believe I've heard of that guy. He's pretty good from what I hear.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
These things called sonnets. We'll see if... I don't know. Shakespeare is a big barrier of entry to me. We'll see if Bruce and Eric convince me to actually watch this Coen brother movie. So these are the movies we're going to be featured. Bruce and Eric both have recommendations. But before we get to the lean meat of it, let's get with the Eric Holmes. You have a whole bunch of movies that you saw. Not within the purview of our weekly Find Your Film thing. What have you been doing, watching so many movies? What kind of little nuggets do you have for us this week before we get into our main reviews? You saw like an alien film or something like that? Something very quick?
Well, I posted the Eye in the Sky on the Cinematics Facebook page. Rewatched that, and then of course I had to do Official Secrets, and then in doing that I saw a movie called The Angel, which I think we might just talk about that next week. But
okay, The Angel. What led you to The Angel after watching?
So Eye in the Sky and Official Secrets is on Netflix, and then The Angel was one of those. If you like that, you'll like this, and I watched it and I liked it. So there's a short version. And then I saw, I listened to on Audible. They had a audio play of Alien 3 with Lance Henriksen, Michael Bean's on it. It was kind of neat because I guess it was based off of an early script of Alien 3. Because if you know anything about the production of Alien 3, they shot without a script, which is kind of inaccurate because they've had like a bunch of different scripts and rewrites and stories on the way up. And as far as I can tell, this was just one of the early scripts that they liked, and maybe they tweaked a little bit and then made a audio drama out of it, and it was pretty good. I still think the Alien 3 that we got is the better one, especially since Ripley's not in, like with the Alien 3 where Ripley is pretty much in it and everyone else is dead. This is the exact opposite where everyone else is in it, but Ripley, she's not dead, but she's like away throughout most of the story. And this plays kind of like Aliens Part 2.
If you're a fan of Alien 3, and I guess if you're a fan of Audible audio stuff, is this highly recommended for you? As far as just
yeah, it's about 2 hours long. I was doing a parts run up to Denver and back, so I just listened to it there, and yeah, it wasn't, it wasn't like one of those, oh, this is the one they should have made, but it was a neat curiosity, kind of like, oh, this is what could have been. I've talked about if they were ever to remake Gremlins, always, go back to the original Christopher Columbus script, the really dark script, and just do that exactly as it is. And as a way to see what could have been. I think if you were to remake it, that'd be the interesting way to do it. This is kind of that, but with the audiobook or an audio drama form. Just like, this is what an Alien 3 could have been, wasn't, but this is, give you an idea.
Have you always known about this Audible release, or is it something you've been meaning to listen to all these years, or it just came up?
I heard about it about a month or two ago, and I just happened to it was one of those things. I heard about that and I was like, oh, I should listen to that. And then I had some credits and I was like, and it popped up. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a thing. Fuck it. I'll listen to it now. And that's what I did. And
you'll listen.
Yeah, if you like the Alien movies, give it a shot. It's not going to knock your socks off, but it's kind of fun. It'll kill 2 hours.
Well, a good way to kill 2 hours. Eric Combs was early to the game last week when he actually reviewed Belle. So our featured review this week is only featured because all three of us are going to review it now that Eric reviewed it last week. He praised it last week. He was finding it a little bit hard on how to actually describe the movie. And I was wondering, Eric, I mean, it's just a movie. Just describe it. And then I just started watching Belle and I go, wow, Eric did a great job in trying to describe what the effing bleep Belle is about. All I'm going to say, Bruce, and you can actually, since you're more eloquent and can embellish on this, it's a modern day take on the Beauty and the Beast tale, taken within the realm of, I know a lot of people hate this word, amidst the worlds of virtual reality and the impending metaverse, where people will be their own digital avatars. Digital avatars is a big part of what Belle is about. There's a lonely, shy girl who, when she enters this different world, I believe it's the world of, I think Bruce or Eric, correct me, the world of You, or maybe the You is the name of the app that she goes into, and she becomes this very popular singer named Belle, and she has a beautiful voice, and millions and millions of users of this app, of this game, actually flock to her singing and whatnot. The animated film is a take on the metaverse, the virtual reality, the destructiveness of social media, while also being a modern day take on Beauty and the Beast. Bruce, is there anything else I can add regarding plot embellishments or just layers regarding what Belle is about?
I think one of the biggest things, I think I mentioned this when we talked about it briefly before, one of the biggest things I would like to accentuate is that this is only partly in that world. Because I think that even the featured trailers and stuff kind of make it look like you spend a lot of time in the You, which you do, but I would say you spend at least as much, if not more, in kind of the, quote, real world. I was also struck by how in this movie, neither is considered great and neither is considered bad. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times you're going to have this alternate reality virtual world, and they're going to paint it as, like, this is fake, and this isn't the real you, and this is all, you need to be yourself. There's some elements of that, and there's some elements that are really good about this alternate world. And the last thing I would mention is, without spoiling how this ends, I really, really appreciated the journey that Suzu, who is the main character, the real world character that becomes Belle, the way that she kind of comes to a couple different climactic moments in this movie, and it is not in a really stereotypical way. It's a really emotional way, I thought. So I think it's a really, really effective movie.
Yeah, Belle's very resonant. Here's the thing: the barrier of entry to this is, when you think of Belle, it is a very grown-up animated film. So if you're thinking of taking your I have a 5-year-old niece, she's not going to watch Belle. There are things that happen in Belle that are very traumatic, okay? That I don't know, a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid can take. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a parent. I'm just a funkle. So I don't know. But there are some grown-up moments in this. Or maybe, who knows? Maybe this is some of the tragic moments. You're laughing, Eric. What you got?
Oh, the Funkle.
The Funkle. I really ended up really loving this movie. It is melodramatic at moments, but that's part of the sweeping epic that is Belle. I agree with you, Bruce, that it goes in a certain direction that you're thinking it's going to be predictable, especially if you know the Beauty and the Beast story, but it goes in a completely different, twisty direction, which I thought was very, very cool. Tackles heavy subjects pretty well. For me, this is a 4-star film. Highly recommended. I forgot, Eric, how many stars did you give this last week?
Shoot, I don't remember. I don't think it did because I talked about this on Cinematics. So I don't think I talked about it here. But
okay.
This would for sure be
my bad.
This for sure would be a 4-star movie. Probably 4.5. This one's really good, and the ending really hit home with me. I mentioned, it was very similar to a Satoshi Kon movie, and those movies are fantastic. So, and this one's just as good as those, I think. And yeah, this gets high marks for sure.
Eric, again, that's 4 stars for you?
I might even go, you know what? I'm gonna go 4.5 on this. And this could probably be a 5-star movie if I watch it a bunch of times, because it's just one of those movies that it hits, that movie that calls it shot and nails it. And I think the more I watch it, the more I like it. And I already like it a lot. So, I want to give it a 4.5 with room to grow.
4.5 with room to grow. And Bruce, I believe you gave this movie 5 stars?
I did. I give this 5 stars. I think that what does it for me is the finale. It's really good up until the finale, and then I think the finale nails it, and then it has another alternate finale, which I don't usually like, kind of 2 endings, but both endings are really, really effective and surprised me, and I loved them. So I give it 5 stars.
Okay, again, so that is Belle. So that it's going to be playing January 12th on IMAX in select theaters, on IMAX theaters. 5 stars for Bruce Perky. Bruce, this has a shot, Belle, being maybe actually one of your favorite films. Maybe it might be a top 20 in 2022, don't you think?
It sure could be. I've thrown it into that file, which I begin every year. It's the only one in that file so far, and then as the year goes on, I will weed and resort that file, and it might make it. Psycho Gorman was in that file early on last year, and it made it to the top, so you never know.
Very, very cool.
It seems to be a common thing. You got Psycho, at least for me, the first year we did this, it was Uncle Peckerhead. Came out early in the year. Psycho Gorman. We haven't done the list yet, but I mean, Psycho Gorman's pretty sweet, and this one as well. So, they say January is the dumping ground, but there's always at least the 1 or 2 gems that last throughout the year.
Yes, and obviously Belle, again, Eric Holmes, you gave it 4.5 stars. Belle is going to be one of those movies that's going to be a very, very special film for a lot of people. Hopefully, more people will get to see Belle once it gets to streaming or maybe Blu-ray or DVD. Bruce, was I wrong regarding that kids who are 5, 6, 7 shouldn't watch Belle? Or are they?
Yes, you were wrong.
Okay, I was wrong. So kids,
because what you're referring to is a time-honored tradition in Disney classics from years gone by, if you think about it. So yeah,
yes.
No, this is for anybody.
This is for anybody. Okay, so I stand corrected as the Funkle. Again, we apologize. You're going to hear some idiot edits by me, because this idiot me had a horrible Wi-Fi situation. So it might sound a little bit edited, but Eric was laughing at my Funkle jokes, because that's what I call myself, Funkle Greg. Now, enough of Funkle Greg. Let's get to Shakespeare and Macbeth, the tragedy of Macbeth. Joel Cohen, Eric Holmes spearheaded this because he saw this first, I believe, on Apple TV. Bruce, I believe, followed suit. Guys, what can you tell me about the tragedy of Macbeth? Starting with you, Bruce.
Well, first of all, it's Macbeth. It's Shakespeare. So this is going to be a giant barrier of entry for a lot of people. If you don't like Shakespearean language, you don't like Shakespeare, it may not be for you. But that being said, to me, at least, and I'm pretty sure Eric is along the ride for this, this is a really, really, really well done Shakespeare adaptation. Obviously, Joel Cohen is a pretty masterful filmmaker at this point. And what I really like about this, it could have gone a bunch of different ways. It's black and white, and you've probably seen scenes from it, or at least shots from it. It very much goes into almost kind of that expressionistic, really hard shadows and light. And it's very, it's like it's stage bound in a way. It's really theatrical, but it's also visually really cinematic while it's still on a stage-like setting. So I don't know how to describe that exactly. Until you see the movie, you'll kind of know what I mean. I guess I would describe it, Hitchcock did that, right? Hitchcock did everything on a soundstage pretty much, for a lot of stuff on sound stages, but he also made them really interesting and cinematic in the production and in the shots and in the way that he presented the images. So for me, I think it's really effective in that way. And then on top of that, Denzel and Frances McDormand are both pretty fucking great in this. There's a lot of great supporting characters. I'd really like to call out Catherine Hunter, who plays all three witches. That role is pretty incredible. I just think it's a great movie, and it is, of all the Shakespeare plays, I mean, there's a lot of great tragedies. This is one of the biggies, of course. But this one is really resonant, I think, still now, because it's all about greed and power and revenge and the cancerous, nature of gaining power and how it can just eat away at someone's, humanity and soul. It's pretty great.
Eric, do you have to be a Shakespeare fan to appreciate the tragedy of Macbeth, or can you actually enjoy it just for the cinema sake of it?
I think this is pretty easy to enjoy. This is not like my main problem with a lot of Shakespeare adaptations is the way that Shakespeare, the language that he wrote of the time almost gives current day actors carte blanche to overact. And I'm not like the tone of their voice or the way that they're talking doesn't match what the character's saying. Thou for art thou, Romeo. It's like, I don't think they mean it quite that intense. Take it down like 10 steps, With this one, I think that it sounds like everyone that was in this movie gets Shakespeare. And that sounds like completely hipster to say because I don't get Shakespeare. But I get the sense that everyone knows what their character is within context of the scene. Because this is a really simple story. And this is the first time I've seen this story in a way that made sense to me. And it's just, a witch tells Macbeth that you're going to be king. Oh, cool. What about my heirs? Well, his heirs are going to be king after you. Oh, well, then that means that they probably kill me. So I got to kill them. And then it becomes a what's the phrase, the inevitable or whatever. My brain sucks.
Foreshadowing or inevitable, or it's
like basically Macbeth in trying to.
Oh, right, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
There you go, self-fulfilling prophecy. He tries to make all this stuff not happen, and in trying to make that not happen, it ends up happening anyway. So really the witch saying this is going to happen to you, the witch is saying you're going to fuck yourself up because they're going to try to stop this if you would just relax and do the thing. But it's a really good story. And this movie is freaking beautiful. Absolutely great looking. In fact, I think Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford is probably one of the best looking movies I've ever seen ever. And then this movie comes out and I'm like, this is also one of the greatest looking movies I've ever seen in my life. I know we don't like talking about Oscars too much on here, but if this doesn't win Best Cinematography, then I guess we can just skip the Oscars every year because it's just bullshit.
With strong words, you know what? We're not. Find Your Film used to be a podcast hosted by Bruce Perky, Eric Holmes, and Greg Trzavosty. We were on for about 2 years. After, this is the news ticker take that we're talking about self-fulfilling prophecies and foreshadowing, or maybe, prologues. After taking on Disney on one podcast, Eric Holmes started to take on the Oscars, and suddenly the powers that be took down the podcast. And
well, I mean, what happened to the Golden Globes this year? Didn't they do the Golden Globes?
Yeah.
So, even institutions die off sometimes. This is nothing against Oscars because they haven't even mentioned it. But dude, this movie looks so great that there's just I don't know how that doesn't happen. This movie looks fantastic.
Well, I'm excited for to actually watch this movie, and I don't know if you guys, was there a direct homage to the way Orson Welles used to shoot these Shakespearean films like Othello or Chimes at Midnight? Have you guys seen any of his black and white stuff, Orson Welles' stuff with rendition of Shakespeare with the edits and the compositions? Have you guys tried his stuff yet?
I haven't seen Othello. I saw like half of Chimes at Midnight. That one didn't quite work for me. Sure. Maybe I should just go back to it and try it again. But yeah. So I guess the short answer, I don't know.
You're saying it looks beautiful, but there's not really too much flashy edits or none of that kind of stuff in this. This is just really beautiful.
No, the shots look great, and you can tell that. There's like one shot where someone falls down the stairs, where they cut to someone falling down the stairs. That would be like the one shot where I'm like, cut that, you don't need it. And it didn't look that great. But I mean, the fact that even that one stood out as the one bad shot in the entire movie kind of tells you how great the rest of it is.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking about editing because Orson Welles had a really interesting approach to editing with his movies. There's some interesting. You're talking about that one edit in the tragedy of Macbeth. What about the editing behind Bruce Hotel Poseidon? This is a movie that is currently streaming on Arrow Player. All three of us received a link. We're actually realizing that Arrow is having its own streaming service. I believe it's called Arrow Player. I don't even know if it's an app. I think we're gonna have to look at how much the subscription service is right now. But we want to cover for you guys some of the streaming options that you have right now. This movie Hotel Poseidon actually came out January 3rd. We received the link a little bit late. That was my fault, and so we're covering it a week later regarding Hotel Poseidon. I'm just going to start off with, this is set, I believe, in Belgium, and it's a hotel. It's not really a Hotel Poseidon, okay? Or Poseidon Hotel, whatever that is. Okay, because the hotel is dilapidated. It basically doesn't operate anymore. It's a property where people squat in, okay? And one of the squatters is this dude who is just really weird. He's weird, he's reserved. You're wondering what is he about? And what's interesting is you come to find out, and it's not a spoiler, that he has familial ties to this, supposedly this abandoned place, this hotel. And the rest of the movie, you see this this protagonist who you actually deem as weird from the get-go, and ultimately you realize he might be the most normal human being in this otherwise really surreal environment. This is 90 plus minutes of nightmarish images and situations. It's hard to even really express what I went through. All I know is I had a really good time watching this movie. I don't know personally if I can actually recommend Hotel Poseidon to a wide group of people. If you have a taste for experimental cinema, think of watching a 90-minute movie with some kind of theatrical improv group just doing whatever they want to do. Think of some really interesting images that you might not be able to get out of your mind. And then, I don't know if this is the cherry on top, the icing on the cake, throw in some of the most disgusting images you'll probably ever see in cinema. So throw that griminess on top of all of these layers, and it worked for me. Bruce Perky, did Hotel Poseidon work for you?
This would definitely be some people's favorite movie. I can see some people loving this movie. I am not one of those people. I will do my attempt to describe it similar to what you just did.
You thought Belle was tough to describe. Now we're
I would
here.
say someone watches a bunch of Lynch. They watch a bunch of John Waters. They drop it into the world of Gummo and stir it around a whole lot. And then they kind of say, ta-da, I've got a movie.
That's fair. That's fair, Bruce.
Yeah, and I feel like it's the difference between, Lynch and Waters and all these people. I feel like they've earned the respect of their weirdness, whether you like it or not. I think they've kind of earned it. I don't feel like this one has earned it yet. It kind of just goes from zero to Lynch without stopping and pass and go. It's aggressively, quote, random. Like, it's like, oh my God, look what I just did. There's a dead person with makeup on in the hallway in a bed. Oh my God. Oh, I dropped that egg into this bucket of slop and I'm going to take it out and I'm going to cook it. Isn't it gray and gross? Yeah, no, I actively hated this movie by the end. I really did not like it at all. It was so far up its ass and letting you watch himself go up its own ass and letting you see all the details of going up its own ass.
On. Bruce, don't you like bloody blenders? Don't you like those?
I like gross and weird movies. I like incredibly strange and odd movies. I like movies that a lot of people hate. I did not like this movie. It was not for me at all.
It didn't. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I will give it. I liked one thing. I liked the title sequence. I liked how it went around the room and the lobby over and over again, and eventually it came around to spell out the name of the movie. I thought that was really clever, and that was a great short. And I could have stopped right there, and I would have been cool. So I give it a half star for that.
Half star. Overall half star from Bruce Perky. I give this to me is a solid recommend for me. I give this movie 3.5 stars. Hotel Poseidon. Now as I was watching this movie, I actually cheated, Bruce. I saw on Letterboxd your half-star rating, and I was ready to actually maybe even give this movie a 0. I was pleasantly surprised it was a little bit of an ordeal for me to watch. But by the end, I would say, yes, I recommend this. I enjoyed this movie. All throughout the movie, I'm thinking, what is Eric Holmes going to think about this movie? Because you're saying sometimes he'll pick the weirdest movies and he will really, just really support them.
You might love it.
And if I would love to, Eric, I would love to hear what you think about this. I'm so excited to hear your review of this movie.
This movie is dog shit. Kidding. I fucking love this movie.
Yes.
I say I love this movie. I don't fucking understand any of it. This is just one of those where oh god, I gotta talk about it again. So Bad Luck Banging or Looney Porn was that movie that it didn't seem like it was saying anything or going anywhere. And then it got weird at the end, but by that time I was already checked out. This one starts off weird. Even though I didn't quite get it, it was one of those where I was just on the edge of my seat going, what's going to happen next? And then some weird shit happens, and I'm like, cool. Well, now what do you got? And then they pull out more weird shit. And then they have that huge oneer kind of towards the end where it goes to that party, and the camera's just going everywhere, and it almost feels kind of like what's that Gaspar Noé movie, Irreversible?
Yes,
it feels kind of like that, without the rape scene.
Right.
I don't think there was a rape scene. There might have been a rape scene.
No, not in this movie. But so in Irreversible, no rape scene in this movie.
I'm just saying, there's so much shit going on at that party at the end that something could have been going on in the background. And then they cut to the room with all the different Jesuses. I'm like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing now. And then it turns into Castaway. He's in a room doing Castaway. I think this movie is kind of like Mother. The Darren
I was going to say that
movie Mother.
It's like Mother on peyote.
Yeah, I would say if you watch Mother and loved it like I did, at least give this one a shot because
I love Mother. I hated this.
That's why I'm saying at least give this one a shot because I think if you can hang with Mother, this is kind of in that same wheelhouse where it's just weird and I don't get what's going, but I'm interested to see what's coming next. And the thing that comes next is even weirder than the thing that came before it. And I'm like, I still don't understand what's going on, but I'm fucking here for all of it. This is also unlike Looney Porn. This is one of those type of movies, at least to me, that even though I don't get it, I feel that I could. I feel that there's something there that I'm just not grasping onto yet. But if I watch it again and again, I can start picking things out of it. And
that's exactly where we differ, because I felt like I didn't, and that's why I didn't like it. But I would have liked it if it felt like I did. So I didn't feel like I did that.
And also, to Bruce's point, there are going to be people that watch this and half star. Bruce is right on. Other people are going to watch and go, nope, Eric's right on. This is a 4.5 star. I'm just saying right now, with room to grow also. Would
you agree? This is one of the, ever so often we have one of these. This is one of those, give it, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And at 20 minutes, you'll know. If you're into it 20 minutes in, it'll continue to give you gifts. If like me, I was I was the opposite. I wasn't intrigued. I got bored very quickly, and I was like, okay, is it going to do anything? So I think if you feel like I did, then at 20 minutes you could probably tap out.
So Eric, you're giving this movie 4.5 stars, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So
with room to grow.
With room to grow. So 4.5 stars, amazing. Look, the reason why I ask you this is the reason why I'm giving this 3.5 stars, which to me is a solid recommend anyway, is I looked at this as an absurdist comedy and I was laughing throughout the movie. Did you read this movie as a little bit of a comedy? And if you didn't, it'd be interesting because you and I had so many. That means all three of us had different takes on this movie. Bruce checked out on it, understandably, but that's still. It'd be interesting to hear what your take is, and maybe all of us have different kinds of reactions.
I think this is one of those type of movies that does that based on where you're coming from. This movie's going to hit different people in different ways. With Bruce, it didn't grab him. He was turned off by it. With me, I was just in. Not too in, because otherwise I would know what the fuck they were trying to say, but I was in enough to be interested in seeing what was going to unfold. I think what David Lynch is a good example too, because where David Lynch works the best, where he gets really weird with stuff like Inland Empire, and of any of David Lynch's movies, Inland Empire is probably the best one to compare this one to. With Inland Empire, you get out of the movie what you put into it. And some people, they're not in the mood and they're like, fuck this movie. And other people, they put way too much in it and they're like 5 stars or 4.5 like me. And other people, they see it for what it is, like Greg, and they're like, yeah, it's 3.5 stars, which actually 3.5 stars is probably the right
probably
number.
the reasonable response.
But yeah, this is just one of those movies that you have to. This is like one of those personal movies. You got to go in for yourself and see whether or not this is a movie for you. And again, like Bruce said, you get about 20 minutes in, you'll get the idea, and you'll know whether you're in or not by that point.
Okay, so this is Hotel Poseidon. It's currently streaming via Aeroplayer. It's directed and written by Stéphane Lemos. I believe I'm probably mispronouncing his name. Bruce, here's the thing. There are some really interesting moments. Do you feel that the filmmaker, what you actually saw regarding the mise-en-scène, all that stuff, do you see talent there and you didn't like the story? Do you know what I'm saying? Do you see promise in what this person can do? And you just ended up not liking the product? Or can't you?
Maybe, like I said, like I saw some style and some interesting thing in the title sequence, but I saw such a lack of attention. Like I didn't understand. I guess maybe with a different writer, this director could do something really interesting. But it's kind of like exactly. But it's kind of like to the point of what Eric said, right? Like he feels like with this kind of movie, you have to feel like they have something they're trying to get at, and I just have to get to their wavelength to figure it out. But I kind of felt like they didn't. I felt like it was just random for random's sake, and that's to me the biggest thing that I couldn't connect with. So it's really a matter of whether you kind of trust the filmmaker is actually going for something. I didn't.
Good. And here, listeners, again, Eric gave it 4.5 stars. I gave it 3.5. Bruce gave it half a star. Really,
all three of us are correct.
All three.
We are. Yep.
Thank you, Eric. Exactly. All three.
Give me some acid. I will be 5 stars.
All three of us are correct. So this is a big warning. Okay, if you want to roll the dice as a cinephile, go for it. Okay, but on the other end of watching this movie, you might be hating or let's just say strongly disliking me and Eric Holmes by the end of watching this movie, and probably going to say, Bruce, I'm just going to trust you and keep giving you what's in the box recommendations. I never want to listen to Eric or Greg again.
Well, that's a gamble. Honestly, I would be intrigued to watch this movie with my own review, because anyone who has this wide of a range between these, I would have to see it. I'd have to be like, what the hell is this movie? You know?
Okay, now, unfortunately, this is a spoiler. I know. I'm assuming what Eric and Bruce are going to say about this movie, Italian Studies. This is a movie directed and penned by, I believe his name is Adam Leone, and he previously directed the movies Gimme the Loot and Tramps. Tramps was a 2016-2017 film that's currently streaming on Netflix. I don't know, Bruce or Eric, if you have seen Tramps, set in New York City. Very wonderful film. Really loved it. Has like this like kind of. It's like an Uncut Gems, but a romantic comedy kind of thing. Boy meets girl kind of thing. So it has that kind of Safdie brothers energy to it. I really loved Tramps when it was released several years ago. So going into Italian Studies, I was excited for it. And this movie, it's a very simple concept. Vanessa Kirby plays this author. She's the author of a short story collection called Italian Studies. For most of the movie is set in New York. It's set in New York and London. Most of the narrative is in the Big Apple. And she has amnesia. She feels completely displaced from New York. She wanders around with hardly any cash. She mooches from people. But since she's a very charismatic person, she starts latching onto a group of youths, because these young kids are going to be the inspiration for her next novel that she's currently writing. That is the premise of Italian Studies. It sounds like there's a plot to it, but most of the movie is essentially a bunch of people walking and talking around New York City, usually set in the dead of night. A lot of it is set in the dead of night. And then she meets a bunch of people. There's another guy that she meets who ends up being kind of a co-lead to the movie. He's a young kid. I believe his name is Simon Brickner, the actor, a newbie actor. I was really affected by this movie. I really enjoyed it. But again, this is another barrier to entry where I think some people may not like the freewheeling, seemingly improvised nature behind Italian Studies. Eric Holmes, let's go for you. Was this a movie that you latched onto, or did it lose you right from the get-go?
No, this is another one of those we mentioned in a previous episode of indie porn. And this is kind of what it felt like. You know, sometimes I'm in the mood for that. Because I don't think this is a bad movie. I think this is a case of when I saw this movie, I wasn't in the mood for it. And it just dragged on. And it just felt like it was going on. Like, the movie's like, 70 minutes, 65 minutes?
About 70,
this is a really short,
right. 78 minutes, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really short movie. But it just felt like it was going on forever. I'm like, Oh God, fucking hurry up. And I just wasn't getting anything out of it. But there was some good stuff in there. The relationships and all that between the characters. There was something there. I just wasn't there for it when I watched it. If that makes sense.
Did you feel this movie smacked of self-importance when you mentioned indie porn? Like maybe it was showing, oh, this is how cool I am. This is a story, or am I wrong on that read?
I think there's like with movies like this, it feels like a lack of clarity, which sounds stupid after talking about Hotel Poseidon. but with Hotel Poseidon, it's supposed to be crazy. It's supposed to be kind of all over the place. With this, it feels like the first third of loony porn, where it's person walking across the road, and then we got to watch them walk across the road. And like at least with Hotel Poseidon, when it's getting when nothing's happening, at least it's weird and I'm interested in what might be happening. With this, it's like when nothing's happening, I'm like, okay, I feel like we're spinning our wheels right now. I guess we talked about this a little bit with the Boba Fett's earlier.
Yeah.
It's like let's go. There's literally nothing for me to grab onto here. And sometimes that works because what was the Olivia Colman, The Lost Daughter?
Yes.
Lost Daughter had some stuff like that, which normally, if I was in the mindset that I was watching this, that I was with The Lost Daughter, I might have felt the same way about The Lost Daughter. I just happened to be in the right mood for that when watching The Lost Daughter, so I like that a lot more.
In fairness, though, there's a lot more meat to chew on with The Lost Daughter. There's just a lot more narrative there. There's just a lot more to the bone.
Yeah. And I guess there's also with The Lost Daughter, there's the mystery aspect, and it's moving forward. I didn't feel that with this. It just kind of felt like, here's a thing that's happening, and then we'll wait a while, and then here's another thing, and it just didn't work for me. But at the same time, I could see myself watching this in another state of mind where I'm like, and I'd be like right where you are right now.
Yeah.
I just caught this at the wrong time, I think, because there's definitely some good stuff there. I just didn't get a lot of it when I was watching it.
I personally just connected to the whole theme about, well, it is this person who has amnesia, but it's also the grander theme is about when we grow up, do we lose our sense of self-identity of who we are? Have we lost a bit of our idealism or our outlook? And that's maybe that's a little bit part of the theme of this movie. Bruce, did this movie resonate with you or whatsoever? Or do you think a lot of it was just pretentious and just didn't go anywhere for you?
I didn't really have a pretentious issue with it. I didn't like it very much at all. I had similar reaction to Eric's. I mean, a lot of her wandering around with amnesia, just kind of wandering from place to place. That wasn't very interesting. Unless you like seeing her pee in a parking lot at night. I mean, that could be something that could be interesting to you, I guess. Not my thing, especially. And then the problem I had, so the theme you're kind of talking about also really didn't work for me because it was a lot of wisdom from stoned art student kid types, and I felt like that if anything was pretentious, that was to tell me that was wisdom, and it was really kind of like obvious stuff that's maybe not obvious because they're young, but when you're older, that stuff's like obvious or not very wise. It's just kind of like being the only sober person in a party of drunk people. Like, it is really not interesting if you're the sober person, but if you're stoned and drunk, it might seem great, but not to watch from the outside. So that's kind of how it felt for me. I gave it 1 star, but only because I really had a lot of drama and worry about what might happen to the dog that she tied up at the beginning of the movie. And that was the only thing that kept me going for the whole movie, to find out if that dog would be all right or not.
Very good. And FYI, no spoilers here, but again, that narrative loop is tied by the end. We get to know the fate of the dog. Bruce gives it 1 star. I'm giving it 4 stars. I ended up I like the atmospheric, free-flowing narrative to this. I thought Vanessa Kirby, she's a presence. She's been in the Mission Impossible films. She was in The Crown. She was in a movie called The World to Come, which no one has seen, but I really, really loved her in this one. And I liked the director, really enjoyed the director, Adam Leone, writer-director of Tramps, Give Me the Loot, which I still have to see, and now Italian Studies. In fairness to Bruce and Eric, I'm going to get your rating in a second. I don't know. I think a lot of people will agree with what Eric and Bruce have to say regarding not really thoroughly enjoying Italian Studies again, but maybe I'm in the minority. I really enjoyed it. 4 stars. Eric Holmes, final verdict, your star rating for Italian Studies.
For me personally, I'm kind of with Bruce on 1 star, but I want to be fair to this movie because I think that there's people that will kind of latch onto this movie the way that you did. So I'm going to be generous and say 3 stars because
Really?
I think it might be one of those movies like if you hit it, if it hits you just right, you're gonna like it. If you're like me and Bruce, you're gonna hit it and it'd be like. But for me personally, it's 1 star. But I think. I think there's some people here that are going to dig it. So
Okay, we're gonna give you 1 star, Eric. You're gonna get 1 star, and then look again. But we're gonna have 3 stars for people who like me. Might be good. Might be good. But
Yeah.
Eric, always be selfish. Think of yourself. 1 star from Eric
I'm
Holmes.
thinking of the listener.
Yes. Think
Thinking
that's
of
very.
the listener.
Bruce,
What's the
Bruce, shouldn't
listener
Eric-
gonna like?
Bruce,
what
is
what
Eric-
do I like? It doesn't matter. I'm the guy that Don't Look Up. I'm thinking of
okay.
the listener
Here we go.
here.
We didn't even bring it up this time.
Again, Eric Holmes. A lot of people like Don't Look Up. Don't you remember? There was a groundswell of support.
A couple people do.
Yeah, a couple a couple of people. Okay, so I believe those are our featured reviews. Belle, strong recommends all around. Again, 5 stars from Bruce Perky. Italian Studies. I'm the only one who liked it, and Eric is trying to be generous with the 3 stars. Thank you, Eric, for that. For The Mass, 1 star for he and Bruce, and then Hotel Poseidon. Guess what? Eric Holmes is very passionate about this film. Hopefully, he'll be banging the proverbial drum. You better, Eric, within the next week, be banging the drum about Hotel Poseidon, getting people on that Aero Player game if they want to gamble a little bit. I think it's only like $5 a month to join up, but maybe they should see it. And finally, last but definitely not least, Eric and Bruce both loved the tragedy of Macbeth, currently streaming on Apple TV. Bruce Perky, what is your recommendation of the week? Thank you, Bruce Perky, for not foisting this on me and Eric as well.
Yes, absolutely. I figured this, if nothing else, this is value added for anyone who knows if they want to dive into a 3+ hour documentary on Shudder called Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched by Pierre La Janice.
Eric, hold on. Bruce, hold on. You're a full-time dad. You have a full-time job. How the heck do you have 3 hours to spare? Along with
Well, you watch it in parts. You know, you watch an hour in the morning, come home, watch another hour after dinner, and you watch another hour the next day. It's not that hard.
Very good, very good. Yeah, it's a lot.
So,
it's a lot, man.
This is definitely, if you're a horror fan, if you're a fan of folk horror especially, then this is a no-brainer. You're going to like this. I would say for movie lovers, to me it's like this. I brought a prop so you don't have it on a video here. So I've got this book called Research Incredibly Strange Films. And I spent so many hours getting these crazy books, just reading through it and finding about all these weird movies I never heard of. And I love that. And if you're the kind of
Poseidon on there,
it might be in a future edition. I don't know. If you are the kind of person that could do that and really enjoy that, this movie's for you because it is extremely comprehensive, although I do doubt why it doesn't have Lose the Flower of Evil in there. But maybe it was finished, but right before that came out. I don't know. I'll give them credit because they have a ton of weird stuff on there. They go all international. They go into like British TV from the 60s. They go into all these different movies from throughout time. And it is just like one of the most comprehensive, kind of like a video essay about folk horror. And if you're interested in that, I think you'll find it pretty fascinating. If you're not, it might not be for you. But if you're a movie fan and you like weird movies especially, this is going to give you so many weird movies to look for. And the really cool thing about it is, Shudder, when they dropped this, they dropped about 7 or 8 of the oddball folk horror movies that are mentioned in this movie also on the channel. So that's the kind of thing that I really appreciate about a channel like Shudder, is that they're not only giving you this documentary, but they're saying like, oh, here's a bunch of the weird movies we talked about. If you want to check them out, here they are. That's kind of value added as well. I say it's pretty great. It's about 4 stars for me. It won't be for everybody.
Well, it sounds like it's 4 stars for you, but it seems that it's so value added. It's giving people so many more movies, a different rabbit hole to go down towards.
And you could totally watch this in pieces. Like, I could imagine them because it even has chapters. They give it like chapter headings. Like the first one is something like I forget what they call it, the trilogy of, folk horror. Like it's the top 3 movies that are considered the beginning of all great folk horror. And they do like The Wicker Man and Blood and Satan's Claw and Witchfinder General. So each of those chapters is probably about 20 minutes long. You could watch them a chapter at a time, a chapter a day, it'd be easy. So
okay. Very cool. Again, that it's streaming on Shudder. Bruce Perky is our resident Shudder expert. Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched, 3-hour just project, documentary, just film pick kind of thing on streaming on Shudder. I think I'm going to check that out as well. Now, Eric, what is your big pick of the week?
I guess I'm doing the amusement park.
Amusement Park. Okay, I have no idea what this is. What is it?
We'll go with the Amusement Park is a George Romero movie. He shot in 1975, I believe. And it came out, a couple months ago for the first time. It was kind of like, what was that, Jerry Lewis clown movie? He made it a long time ago, but it never came out. I don't think that this movie, I don't know what the history of this movie was. I don't think that George Romero was trying to hide it like Jerry Lewis was with the clown movie. But
At the Day the Clown Cried, which I believe is coming out soon. I believe he gave it a time period after his death when it was allowed to be released, and I think we're approaching that. So keep your eyes peeled.
Oh, very cool.
I cannot wait for that. Good, bad, indifferent. That's like one of those movies. It's like, oh, it finally happened. But this is I don't know what the history of this movie is, but it came out last year, 2021, a couple months ago as we're recording this, and I believe it was playing on Shudder. The movie opens with this old guy. He's wearing this dirty suit. He's got cuts all over his face, a bandage. His hair's all messed up, and he's just like, he looks like he went through hell. And another guy comes in this room. It's a completely white room, and he's got his nice white suit, all clean, hair done up. You know, he looks ready to take on the world, and he's about to. And he's like, "Hey, there's a door there. You want to come outside?" And he's like, "There's nothing out there for me." It's like, come on, it'll be fun. It's like, it'll be terrible. Don't go. There's nothing out there. And the guy goes out, and as soon as he opens the door, he's in an amusement park, and it's just obnoxious noise coming from everywhere, people everywhere. Basically, the clean guy, he's out in this amusement park, which is a stand-in for different aspects of actual life, and he's an elderly person. So this movie shows an elderly person going through an amusement park, but the idea is that this is how elderly people go through life, and this is the stuff they put up with. Eventually it comes full circle and bookends, and if you watch the movie, you'll see it. The movie's less than an hour long. It's like 56 minutes or something like that. So Greg, you're gonna want to get in this.
Yeah, definitely. I have a question for you for this. I went on Rotten Tomatoes, okay? Mm-hmm. So for the critics, they gave it, there's 12 reviews. As of this recording, it's 96%. Audience reviews for this, audience score is 46%. Do you see the reason why? Right. Okay, just wondering why there's a big separation between the critics and fans of the genre.
I think my biggest issue with this is, because again, this was shot in 1979 and released in 2021. So this is a really rare movie in the sense that what ideas people had back in the day, there are certain things that they didn't account for today. This is quite in your face about what it's about. It's about how people treat the elderly. But I don't know that in 1971 you have the Nancy Pelosi's and the Donald Rumsfelds of the world who are also elderly, and they're the ones running the world. So they didn't have the scenes where the elderly person's being taken care of by young people, and only to say, oh, the black people moved in, screw them. It's like, oh Jesus, it was very focused on what it was about, but I don't think it was complete. And that may be because of when it was made versus when it came out. This is definitely a movie worth watching, because there's some really cool ideas. Just because the Nancy Pelosi's of the world are fucking everyone over. There are also other elderly people that are very much in the position that the main character is in this one, and those people need to be accounted for as well. And I think maybe if you focus more on that, there's probably a lot more here, and this movie has a lot to say, and I think it's important. You kind of have to forgive it and kind of try to find the context of what it's trying to say, as opposed to going, but what about these people? Well, the movie's not talking about them because of when it came out, so on and so forth. But we're talking about these people. Okay, I get it. Yes, and we could treat those people better, and maybe we should. And so I'm kind of torn on this, but overall, I think the movie's heart is in the right place. And I love that George Romero did this because he's kind of one of those guys that just doesn't give a fuck about anything. He's like, this is what I think, and I'm not going to be subtle about this whatsoever. Yeah, he just really went for it, and I appreciate him for it. And more importantly, this is the last George Romero movie, even though it came out before a lot of his other ones. So that's worthy of note as well.
So this is the amusement park. It says, you said 79. Some people say 73. On IMDb, it says released 1975, but like you said, Eric, it's just been recently restored. How many stars?
No, I could be wrong. I don't think it was released in 75. I think it was shot in 75.
Yeah.
And it was released in 2021.
I can give you some more context if you'd like to hear it.
Yes.
Sure. Some very interesting context. Well, so George Romero, before he did Night of the Living Dead, he got to start doing like advertisements and like commercial films. Like that's kind of how he cut his teeth and got his skills. So this movie had a really interesting history. I'm reading this from IMDb as well, but I remembered this from before. An organization called the Lutheran Society hired George A. Romero to create a movie about elder abuse and the importance of showing respect to older people. That was how this got created. When Romero presented the society with the surreal and frightening take on the subject, they were so shocked and horrified by what they saw that they hid the film and never showed it to anyone, and it was 45 years later before it was found and restored.
Oh, so the Lutherans fucked up again. Cool.
So this was kind of a commercial. This is almost like a commercial project, probably to help him fund other movies. He probably did this, but he put his Romero craziness on it, and that became what it is. So that's what this is all about.
That actually makes me like this even more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want this to be a puff piece of, and actually that understands. That makes sense why it didn't go deep on the other side.
Right.
What I was saying about the Nancy Pelosi's of the world and so on and so forth. But wow. Yeah, this movie's fucking brilliant.
So this, if nothing else, this is an incredibly interesting oddity in film with a famous director in a really odd situation, and this movie exists still, which is kind of great in that aspect. It may not be the most entertaining movie you ever see, but as far as interesting, it's got some really interesting history behind it. So
Eric, how many stars do you give The Amusement Park, directed by George A. Romero?
I was going to go 3.5, and then Bruce read that, and it just shot up to a 5. So I would say do your homework on this movie, and then go watch it.
Okay, 5 stars for the
I love the middle finger that George Romero did, and then the context of the history of this movie just made it even better. So yeah, this movie's great.
Okay, cool. 5 stars from Eric Holmes for The Amusement Park. That's a very, very good recommendation, especially if you're a fan of the works of Romero. Now, before we go, let's hear our musical interlude from our resident musician, Pete Abeta. What does Pete do? Drop every week. Bruce Perky. Let's do Bruce Perky. He's never done the...
What, me? I never do this. Oh, no. Okay. I'm not really equipped for this. So, yo, Pete, drop that. Oh, crap. I messed it up. Okay. Yo, yay, Pete. No, yay, Pete, drop the beat.
Who's in the box? Oh, what's in the box? You lie! No! What's in the fucking box?
All right, very good. Actually, Eric, both you and I have been fired. Bruce should do the drop the beats every week.
Pete,
We should just say, yo, Pete, watch Hotel Poseidon, please, and tell us what you think. Now, Bruce, you have a very interesting movie for What's in the Box. So tell us about it. And, we love Jesse.
So part of this year is I've just been dropping movies in that I've seen either suggested or recommended, or just something that comes across in my brain and I go, oh, I'll put that in the box. This is, I guess, somewhat suggested by Jack Fitzpatrick, because he had posted something about this movie. I don't remember ever recollecting hearing about this movie. It's on Netflix. It's called Other People, directed by Chris Kelly. Chris Kelly, now, I don't know what else Chris Kelly has directed. I think Chris Kelly's mostly a writer. Anyways, from 2016, it stars Bradley Whitford, it stars Jesse Plemons, and Molly Shannon in a mostly dramatic role. This is a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, this is the basic concept. It starts out, the beginning of the movie is this. It's the whole family is laying on the bed, and they're all crying because the mother has just died. And as they're laying there in this moment, holding hands and crying, Jesse Plemons is one of the people. He's one of the sons of Molly Shannon, who has died. They get an answering machine message, and it's just that weird juxtaposition of like this incredibly sad moment just being busted into by this annoying answering machine message. Cut to a year earlier, basically the new year. Molly Shannon has been diagnosed with cancer. She knows it. It's just beginning stages for her. She's totally fine at that point. Jesse Plemons is moving into the house to live with them. He's moved back from New York. And the movie is basically that year. It's basically what happens in that year. And it sounds like a total bummer, and it's not. It's got, emotional moments to it, obviously. But it is just a great character piece, a great family movie. And Jesse Plemons, I don't think he's ever been better. I don't think I've ever seen him in a movie that's better, because he a lot of times lately is kind of plays the sad sack, like kind of mild-mannered dude. Yeah. And he does it all in this movie. He is so good. And it's just one of those movies that just gives and gives and gives and has fantastic characters. And I just think it's wonderful. It's really great.
Remember really loving this movie, and I can't remember a darn thing about it, probably because of the subject matter. It's just tough. It's tough for anyone to watch. I do remember, however, obviously Jesse Plemons, genius actor. We all love him. But I just remember, the one thing I remember from watching other people is, man, Molly Shannon is just a total gift.
Great.
And I need to see whatever she does. I need to see more. I remember thinking, I need to see more of her dramatic work. As funny as she is a devastatingly talented dramatic actress. So I don't know if that's what you got.
Like in Superstar.
Yeah. She's great, though. She's really good in this. And I want to say, perfect example of the kind of the deadpan humor that's like humor but built out of tragedy. There's a scene, and it's sort of later on when his mom is starting to have a lot of issues. And he has to go out and get a whole bunch more toilet paper and laxatives for her. And there's this scene where he's getting more and more frustrated because life is just going to shit for him. And he's really having a hard time with it, but he's trying to kind of hold it together. He's got, armload of toilet paper. He's going down the aisle, and he keeps trying to find, he's like, where can I find the fucking laxatives? Why aren't the laxatives with the medicine? He keeps trying to find the laxatives. And finally he goes around a corner, and he's standing there with the, arm loaded with toilet paper, and he looks at the person, he goes like, where's the laxatives? And he's like, not for me, It's just like, here he is holding all this toilet paper. And it's just it's a perfect example of how throughout this movie, there's poignancy, there's tragedy, and there's comedy, and it's just really great characters. For me, it's a 4-star movie. This is one of those, like Eric said, this could go up, but I could see this being a really great find for a lot of people. It's on Netflix. It's solid. And it's one of those movies that you might stay away from because you're like, so like I said, total bummer. I don't want to watch this. It's not. You should check it out.
Great. Okay, so that is a great pick. Indirectly picked by Jack Fitzpatrick. He has his own YouTube channel. Eric Holmes, what is that name of Jack Fitzpatrick's channel?
Let's
crash this.
Let's crash this parade. The guy with the bad brains, but
let's
it's
crash
let's crash this parade.
Let's crash this parade from Jack Fitzpatrick.
And
Good job, Jack.
He just posted a review of the brand new Scream, so hey, he can go out there and scoop it if you want to get it. There you go.
Yeah, check out his review of the brand new Scream. And yeah, that is it. Before I go, this is the first time I've actually remembered, Bruce, what's in the box. Are you going to start shaking things? Can you believe I usually...
that's not the bit.
I'm not, because that's not what we're doing this week.
I completely forgot. I did it again. I screwed it up again, folks. Nope, you're not doing what's in the box. Next week, we're doing the Dean Koontz Wallet Watch, where we have a rotating group. So this time, it's my turn to pick the film we're going to watch for next week. Okay, once out of every month, we pick a film that all three of us have to watch. The movie that I'm picking is a film directed by Lee Tamahori, starring Nick Nolte, Jennifer Connelly, I believe, and Chaz Palminteri. It's called Mulholland Falls. I remember really being disappointed by this movie because I had an early script of it and I thought it was going to be just FYI. And
this movie really sucks, but I'm going to make everyone
I'm going to make everyone watch it. I just remembered being really blown away by the original screenplay. Would love to hear what you guys, maybe, who knows, maybe after almost 20 years or maybe almost 20 years, maybe it's a lot better with the years past. It's small.
Is
Yes,
the
sir.
screenplay available online?
I'm gonna have to check, yeah, but I just remember it being brilliant, and then watching the movie and then going, ugh, I can't believe I'm watching this.
I'm going to make sure next week that I do a lot of talking about how awesome Naomi Watts was in it, and
Mulholland Drive, very, very good. Yeah. In fairness, though, Eric Holmes, I read Pulp Fiction a year before Pulp Fiction came out, and I saw Pulp Fiction in the theaters. And guess what? I was disappointed with the final product that was Pulp Fiction, because I think, Eric, you have a special, I think you're very connected to screenplays. You have an image of the script when you read it, and a year later, when you have a year later, you end up being a little bit disappointed because you had all these things in your head. It's just this kind of image. Have you ever had that where you read the screenplay first? And
The first time I ever did that was with Inglourious Bastards. Because I read the script for Inglourious Bastards before the movie came out. It was leaked online, and I was like, well, I'm going to fucking read that. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And I read it, and the screenplay for Inglourious Bastards was fucking awesome, as you would expect from a Quentin Tarantino script. And then the movie came out, and there was one scene in particular that was in the script that was really great. It was when Donnie Donowitz gets his bat, and there's like this whole scene that goes along with that. And I believe Cloris Leachman was supposed to play a part in that, because she was supposed to be in Inglourious Bastards. And I heard a thing from what's his name? God damn it, Sam Levine. Sam Levine talks about this, and he's like, "Oh, they shot the shit out of that. It might not. That scene may never even be released, but they definitely shot it." But that scene was in the script, and was like, and I'm watching the movie, waiting for that part to come out, because it was such a good. It was just such a good scene. And then I watched the movie, and obviously it's not in there. And so I was kind of disappointed with that. But
did
then,
it ruin your
the
overall
scene for
yeah?
Inglourious
Okay,
Bastards?
yeah.
No, because the opening scene for Inglourious Bastards was every bit as awesome as it read on the screen. I think it's kind of fun to do that, but you have to know that if you're gonna read the book before you see the movie adaptation, or if you're gonna read the script before the movie comes out, you have to know that things are going to change, and you might not want that, but you can't fault the movie for that. You have to take the movie on its own. You got to take the movie on its own terms. It's not fair to read a script before it comes out and then watch the movie and go, well, that you cut this scene out and I like that scene. It's like, well, we didn't release the script, so you shouldn't have read it to begin with. The script was for the actors and for the crew and for everyone to know, and we left in what we wanted to and took out what we didn't want to for reasons that we thought were right at the time. But it is kind of fun to read scripts ahead of time if you can. I don't usually hold it against movies if they change things, because I just take the movie for what it is. But it is really fun to read a script ahead of time and then watch the movie later on, just to see, I know the movie I have in my head. I want to see how they realized it. So I get excited about stuff like that on the rare instances that I get to do that, which is, oh shit, I'm trying to think of the last time I got to do that. Probably Interstellar, maybe. Oh, Interstellar's got a great opening in the script. If you can find the Interstellar script, check that out, because that opening is fucking sweet. And
by the way, I
shoot that in the...
By the way, I recently interviewed this actress. Her name is Jackie Vinay. She was one of the actresses in Fear Street Part 2. She plays, without giving too much spoilers, she plays the woman, the young girl who has sex with one of the fellow campers. I'm sure you remember her in the movie. And I asked her, obviously, what's one of her all-time favorite movies, and one of her picks was Interstellar. She loves Interstellar so much. So we'll be posting up that interview pretty soon. Before we go, Bruce, can you just give a little bit of a tease of what we have next week? We're doing a little special mini episode regarding sort of year-end stuff.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to try to do, once again, we talked about it last week, so I'm not going to go through them all again, but we're going to try to do all of our kind of weird categories and our tops for 21 in those weird categories. I think we have a plan to probably put a post up at some point with those categories, so we can get some listener feedback as well and kind of see where you guys would come up on the same categories before we do that. And then we'll hit some movies as well next week.
I have just an evergreen category that I'm just going to throw out to you guys. I think we've been doing this for about 2 years. I have what's the one movie that you simply, even to this day, can't shake? So you can answer it however you want. So that's a category. Hopefully, maybe we can add a movie that we've covered in how many 100+ episodes. A movie that we still can't shake, that still is in our noggin. So we'll keep that, and we'll announce that. That's one of the categories we will announce and talk about maybe next week for a special category episode, end of the year kind of thing. So yeah, Eric.
Let me.
I have my choice.
Let me throw
already.
something that kind of goes with that. There's a scene that I can't shake,
Oh.
and this is we're talking about reading scripts before you see the movie. I read a script by Andrew Kevin Walker, who
Yes.
wrote Seven
Yes,
and then
yeah.
8mm and Sleepy Hollow, mostly Seven. But he wrote this script called Psycho Killer, and you can find this online. You might even go to his website; it might be on there. But if not, look up Psycho Killer, Andrew Kevin Walker .pdf or whatever, and it should pop up. There's a goddamn that script. The script kind of the story kind of falls apart towards the end because it gets a little too
Gory?
weird or stupid, whatever. But there's a scene. If you find the script, read it, and there's a scene that happens outside in the parking lot of Walmart. That's one of the most suspenseful things I've ever seen or read or anything. Like that Walmart scene. Basically, it's the killer. He gets inside of a car and he's just waiting in the back seat, and he's just sitting there, and he's waiting for the woman that works at Walmart to come into. You know what's going to happen as soon as he's sitting in that back seat. You know she's going to eventually get inside the car in the driver's seat, and bad things are going to happen. But the way that thing is written is so freaking good. If you ever get the chance, if you're listening to this, go online, Google Psycho Killer by Andrew Kevin Walker .pdf, and then read that script. It falls apart towards the end, but that whole first like 2/3, 3/4 or whatever is really fantastic.
The last thing that Andrew Kevin Walker did was the 2016 animated film Nerdland, which stars Patton Oswalt and Paul Rudd, features their voices, directed by Chris Prynoski. Before that, he was the writer behind the 2010 film The Wolfman, starring Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins.
I think he's probably has a bunch of uncredited stuff. I got the feeling that because I know he works with he's doing David Fincher's got a movie coming out this year. Should have a movie coming out this year, written by Andrew Kevin Walker.
Cool,
I believe
cool.
it's an adaptation of a comic book, maybe The Killer.
Yeah,
I believe
The Killer. Yes.
But
Wow.
so there you go.
Okay.
But yeah,
Very, very
check it
good.
out.
That is good. So
Sorry, babbling too much.
No. That's a big recommendation from Eric Holmes. Check out Psycho Killer. It's available probably online. Just Google it. Might be available on a PDF, and maybe you might not want to go to Walmart after reading that scene. Very good recommendation.
You'll certainly check the back seat of your car before you walk into it.
Yeah, very, very good. As per usual, we are. I always wonder whether I'm forgetting something before we leave, but let's leave on some wise wisdom. Wise from Mr. Bruce Perky.
Well, the new Scream comes out this week, but it's going to do fine. You don't have to go watch that. But Belle is also coming out this week in the theater, and it probably won't be there very long. And it's available in IMAX in a lot of places. So why don't you get your asses in this theater and go see Belle and watch Scream some other time?
Very great recommendation from Bruce. Very spirited. Yes, Belle in IMAX would be a beautiful experience. Hopefully, some of you guys see it. If you see it, right?
If only that could happen.
If only. All right, if only, guys. We will see you next week here on Find Your Film. Thank you so much.